Hello everyone, in today's video we are going to be walking through the final boss of appointment booking voice agents.
It looks like March 4th is already booked. However, I do have available slots on March 6th.
Specifically, the functionality side of these booking agents, that is screening for available time slots and booking an event in any given calendar. On top of that, we'll be sending the booking confirmation SMS to the user, notifying our relevant sales team members via Slack, and recording all the essential data in a CRM. Now, today there's a lot to get through, so without further ado, let's jump straight into it. Now, today we'll be doing a complete breakdown of how this N8N workflow works, but most importantly, how to import this template and set it up for yourself. But before we do any of that, let's quickly jump into a demo of this agent working. Let's take my Google Calendar, for example. The following week, which will begin on March the 2nd, has two busy days. That is Tuesday the 4th and Wednesday the 5th. We're gonna call in and first showcase the ability to book in appointments, and then do another call to showcase this attempt counting roller that checks for busy time slots. If it is busy, we'll roll to the next day. If that is busy, we'll roll to the following day, and so forth until we get a free time slot. So to jump straight in, we're gonna attempt to book in for Monday the 3rd. We'll go ahead over to VAPI, which this agent scaffold is built directly on top of. Hey Sam, how are you? I would like to book in an appointment, please.
I'm doing well, thank you. Before we proceed with booking your appointment, may I have your name?
My name is Jonas.
Thank you, Jonas. Are you interested in AI voice agents?
Absolutely, Sam.
Great to hear that, Jonas. What time do you prefer to book your appointment?
Let's do Monday the 3rd. What do you have available then?
This will just take a sec. We have available slots on Monday, March 3rd, at 10:45 a.m., 1:45 p.m., and 2 p.m. Do any of these times work for you?
Let's do 2 p.m., please.
Hold on a sec. Thank you for booking with us, Jonas. You should receive an SMS with the details and meeting link shortly. Is there anything else I can assist you with today?
That is all. Thank you.
Thank you for your time today. Goodbye.
So as you can see, the requested time was booked in directly to our calendar there on Monday the 3rd. We didn't give it a specific time slot. The way this appointment booker operates, it'll screen our entire day of that requested time. So the morning to the afternoon, and then it'll generate 3 varying time slot that sort of fits within the user's requested time there. Now that was pretty straightforward. There were no busy time slots for that day I requested, so it's quite easy in that regard. I want to show what happens if, say, we wanted to check for Tuesday. The user requested a time on Tuesday. You'll see we have a bunch of mock busy blocks here, as well as on Wednesday. And this is to show this attempt counter functionality, which I'll explain in just a moment, where if the requested time is busy on that whole day, it'll roll to the next day and so forth until we return some free slots. When I'm gonna call up here, we'll roll twice actually, because both Tuesday and Wednesday is completely booked. So to showcase that functionality, I'll do another web call. We'll request something on Tuesday, and it's gonna roll 2 days and present something on Thursday.
Sam from Talk AI.
Hey Sam, can I book an appointment, please?
Of course. Before we proceed, may I have your name?
Jonas.
Thank you, Jonas. Are you currently interested in AI voice agents?
Yep.
Great. What time do you prefer to book an appointment?
Do you have anything on March the 4th, next Tuesday?
It looks like March 4th is already booked. However, I do have available slots on March 6th at 10:45 a.m., 12 p.m., and 2:15 p.m. Do any of those times work for you?
Yeah, let's do the 2:15 p.m. one.
This will just take a sec. Thank you for booking with us. Join us. You should receive an SMS with the details and meeting link shortly. Is there anything else I can assist you with today?
That's all, thank you.
Thank you for your time today.
So as you can see, we requested that March 4th slot. So this is next week actually, and it rolled past Wednesday the 5th as the whole day was booked, and then suggested the 6th. I'll quickly show exactly how this works. So we received a webhook, which was a tool call argument from VAPI side, which I'll jump into in a moment. So we had that requested start time as March 4th here. And what we're doing here is setting it to the start of the day. We're going to assume that a day starts at 9 a.m. and ends at 5 p.m. And we're returning available slots. So as it appears here, our available slots were busy in our first attempt, or attempt 0, that initial tool call. Because the slot is equal to busy, we're moving along this true branch. We're adding a day to that time. So checking now the 5th, which was that Wednesday. So we're storing the attempt counter as well as adding a day to that start time. And if the counter is less than 2 here, we're gonna move down to screening again that available slots with that incremented 1 day. So now we're checking on the 5th here, and following a similar sequence of logic here, we finally get to if the attempt is not equal to 2, so attempt 2 didn't work, then we're again rolling back down and incrementing by 1 day now to Thursday the 6th, and then returning our available slots here where we do have available slots for that Thursday. So we can move down the false branch, which we're responding to our webhook here with those available time slots. Of course, our voice agent is built on VAPI, which is guiding our agent on what to say, what tools to use, the end of call report and everything like that. So it makes sense to visit our VAPI agent, which we've been doing these web calls on, and explain a bit behind the scenes what's happening there. Of course, I'll be leaving the templates for the agent prompt as well as the tools. So don't worry about that. We'll quickly skim over the VAPI side of things, and then we'll jump into the calendar side of things, how we're actually returning these available slots and how we're actually booking in events into our calendar using cal.com. Over here in VAPI, we have our booking assistant for N8N here. The model here is quite simple. This really doesn't matter what your system prompt is. However, I will point out some essential information that must be included in your system prompt for this booking system to actually work. And that is coming down here to booking the appointment. Obviously, we have a role. You are Sam, an expert booking assistant and customer service agent aimed at our business. The task here is to qualify the lead, so asking their name and ask if they're interested in AI voice agents. Those were the 2 questions that you heard Sam asking me before it would book in an appointment. As far as actually booking in the appointment, we're working with the caller to book in an appointment to Talk AI's calendar, asking the caller what time they prefer first. The reason we do this is because it's far easier to have the user give us times first than have the AI present times first. Therefore, we use our check calendar N8N function to look for availability first, waiting for that API response, and then using our book calendar N8N function to finalize that booking. If the booking is successful, we'll say a quick message, and we have some specifics down here. Always get the availabilities first before booking. Use the current time as a reference for checking slots. Never assume a day or a slot is available. Use that tool. If the requested slot isn't available and there is available times the following day, explicitly say this. Mentioning current time here, we're passing in the current time using VAPI's native Liquid.js capabilities here. This is similar to passing a now variable, only the now variable is specific to UTC. We want to pass the now variable in my specific time zone, which is Australia and Sydney. So as far as this prompt template goes, and I'll give you this in the description, all you would have to change is this Australia, Sydney to, of course, your time zone. If you're EST, this would be something like America, New York. And that is it as far as the system prompt goes. Now, this could be embedded in a much larger system prompt of a production level agent, only you would need to include this book appointment specifics and the guidelines on following that. As far as the advanced goes, we're only sending back an end of call report to get the call data, so the cost, the duration, and things like that. It's being sent to our N8N webhook, which we're receiving here, passing down to get that raw data. Like I mentioned, we're only passing in the end of call report here to our server. Now, most importantly is our functions. Now, our functions, we have two here, as you may guess. First, to check the calendar for availabilities, and then secondly, to book an event into our calendar. Now, both these tools are pretty simple and I'll run through them now. Obviously, our integration here is going to be a custom tool. Our server URL points to our N8N workflow here, and the details of this actual tool composition is, of course, we have our tool name, which needs to be mentioned explicitly in our system prompt. We have a tool description, so our tool name here, check calendar N8N. We're using this function to check availabilities in our calendar. This isn't an asynchronous tool. We need to wait on the result of this tool before we can move on. Finally, we have our properties here. And the only property in this check calendar N8N tool is going to be the requested time. This is the requested time of the user in this format. Now, this format is our ISO 8601 format, and the reason we need to pass it in this format is because cal.com expects this. We're taking this requested time and sending it to our available slots endpoint within cal.com, which I'll get to in just a moment, and having some available slots returned to us. Hence why we need to have it in that format. So year, 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 month, month, day, day, time, and this will be whatever time the user had requested. Now, we need this requested time parameter here, so this is going to be a required parameter here. There's no tool messages here. Moving on to our book calendar side of things, this is largely the same. So our integration, yet again, is a custom tool with our N8N workflow webhook URL here. Now, as far as the parameters go, we have a few here, but firstly, our tool name, book calendar N8N, using this function to book an appointment into our calendar. Again, we're going to be using the requested time. So this is the requested booking time of the user, e.g. that initial requested time that we used with the check calendar N8N function. And we're going to be passing along the name as well. So the name of the caller and then the reason of the call. And this is ascertained throughout the conversation, and this will be used to populate the description of our Google Calendar booking. So in conjunction, the name and reason helps us populate our event creation. You'll notice here when we create an event, the title here is Booking with Jonas, my name, and Talk AI. And that is pretty much it in terms of the VAPI side of things. So two tools that we're creating pointing towards our N8N workflow. And again, to reiterate, our book calendar N8N uses our properties name, reason, requested time, where really the name and requested time here are required parameters. So making sure these two parameters are clicked. Again, no tool call messages here. We're having it say exactly what we want it to say in our webhook tool call response, which I'll show you when we set up the N8N side of things. And again, our check calendar, just the requested time for the parameter here, making sure it's a required value. Now, if you're creating these tools following along, the tool call name here is explicitly mentioned within our assistant. So ensuring here under the book appointment side of things that where we're saying use this function, make sure that it's explicit to the name that you have. I'd recommend just keeping it the same. Check calendar N8N, book calendar N8N, and of course, ensuring the functions are included here in our tools section. So clicking the check calendar N8N and book calendar N8N also. Let's jump quickly into the cal.com side, so the actual calendar side of this functionality. We're using cal.com here, and it is for a very specific reason. So cal.com has quite a robust API framework. Specifically, we can point to an endpoint that will return only the available slots within a given minimum and maximum range. So start of the day, end of the day, start of the week, end of the week, and so forth. This is helpful because because things like Google Calendar use this weird API call called get free busy time slots, and we sort of have to work out when is busy against when was free, and it becomes a bit more complex. We often have to use AI, whereas cal.com, we don't have to use any AI for the logic. We have specific endpoints that we can use. So the get available slots endpoint to return only free slots in a given time period. Now, as far as cal.com goes, I'll actually go ahead and walk you through how you're meant to create an event type. So without an event type here, the user doesn't have anything to book in and we won't get very far. Firstly, create an event type that the user can book into. So I'll walk you through creating your cal.com event, as well as collecting some key details that we need from cal.com to help you in setting up this N8N template yourself. The first thing we'll want to do is head over to app.cal.com. Under event types, we're wanting to create a new event type. The title here can be whatever you want. Let's call it Discovery YouTube, and you can have the description whatever you want. Typically with the discovery call, the duration is 15 minutes, but if you want it longer, shorter, that's up to you. Now our event type has been created, and the beauty about cal.com is that you can connect all sorts of calendars within this event type. This sort of acts as a middleman between your actual Google Calendar or your Microsoft Calendar and the user, where we can have a much more open platform that can screen for availability within your Google Calendar and so forth. Other than that, there's really nothing here you need to change. The availability side of things, this is your standard working hours. So for me, I've got Monday 9 to 5 all the way to Friday 9 to 5. Now this isn't necessarily assuming that you have Monday to Friday 9 to 5 free. It'll check against your Google Calendar, for instance, if any of those times within that range are free. Now one important thing here is limits. So what we have here is an event time buffer. So how many times or how often someone can book in. And the buffer time essentially means that a user needs to give X amount of time notice before they can book in. And it's a similar concept here with the minimum notice. Now, the problem with this, having a 2-hour minimum notice, for example, is it essentially creates this phantom busy period as well within your calendar. And this makes it hard to properly identify busy periods within a given time range. I like to just keep this as honestly 5 minutes or 0 minutes, and you'll want to hit save on that. So the shorter the minimum notice and buffer time is, the better. As far as the limit side of things, we don't need to change anything else here. Really what's important is the advanced section. This is where you'll add your Google Calendar, your Microsoft Calendar, or any native calendar that you want to connect cal.com with. For me, it's my Google Calendar, and you'll want to toggle the Google Calendar, for instance, or your Microsoft Calendar to check for conflicts to prevent double bookings. And this is really essential. This makes sure that in the event that we have something on our Google Calendar, that cal.com is checking for conflicts before it actually books in an appointment. Another thing here to mention is the event name. We want to have this dynamic. We essentially want our agent to be able to create the event name, similar to what we have here, Booking with Jonas and Talk AI. And to have this so we can pass in our own title, we'll go ahead and click the little pen icon here, and you'll see we have a bunch of different available variables that we can use here, including title. And this is the title of the event. So essentially you want to have your event name as open curly braces, title, close curly brace. Go ahead and hit create. Scrolling down, most importantly here is the booking questions. Now the email address here, what we're going to be doing is using our own email address when we create that event via the API. But what we want to do is add a question here, and we're going to select phone. The identifier, we can call it phone, and the label can be phone space number. We'll make this required, and now because anytime someone calls into our voice agent, they're calling in always from a number, or on the outbound sense, if we don't have a user's number, we can't make a call. So this can be easily populated with the event creation side of things to send them that SMS and then do any follow-up sequences that we may wish. This is far easier than trying to collect a user's email over the phone. Often you'll misspell it, miss a character or so forth. It's just a mess. So we want to be using the phone number here. We'll move this up I might just move it maybe under email address. That makes a bit more sense. We'll go ahead and hit save. And that is it. We are ready for the cal.com side of things. However, before we leave, we need to collect two things from cal.com. The first being, what is this event type ID? And to get this, we need to locate the URL bar here, and after the second // after event-types, this sequence of numbers up until the question mark is going to be your event type ID. So make sure you copy this and put it somewhere so we can quickly retrieve it later when we're setting up the N8N template. The second thing we need to grab is our API key. And to get that, go down to the bottom left under settings, locating API keys, and to add a new key, we'll hit add. We'll call this N8N. Set the expiration date depending on your security level as whatever you want. Hit save, and you'll make a copy of your cal_live_key. Copy this somewhere along with that event type ID because we'll be needing those very shortly. So now that we've run through both the VAPI side of things as well as the cal.com side of things, we have all we need to start setting up this N8N workflow for yourself. In your N8N account, we're going to create a new workflow, and we're going to be using the template provided in the description as a starting point to get this all set up for yourself. And we'll go ahead and hit create workflow up the top right here. This will open you with a new canvas that we can start to create our nodulus based system. What we're going to be doing, however, is clicking the top three dots here in the right, and we're going to import from file, and you're going to select the file given in the description below, and this will populate your canvas with the boss of all appointment booking logic. Now, I want to note that this doesn't use any AI for processing or logic as far as screening for available time slots and booking in available times, time zone conversions and everything like that. So this is very, very reliable as far as running this and not encountering any errors or having reliance on AI to do a lot of logic processing. On top of this, this is very operationally inexpensive. I decided to use N8N here for two main reasons, and the first is being these little code blocks that you can include as compared to having a bunch of different modules to perform the same sort of function. And the second reason is if you have an upgraded account, you get 10,000 executions a month. Now, this isn't an execution of each module within a workflow like it is in make.com, where each operation is how many times a module runs. An execution in this sense is the complete run of a workflow. But that is besides the point. We'll get into setting this up. When you've imported this template, you'll see some red here on the available slots, the book slot, the Twilio, the Airtables. That's fine. What we'll do now is I'll showcase how to set this up properly for yourself. We'll start with the available slots. Now this is querying the cal.com slots endpoint to return our free slots within a time range. And specifically what I mean by that is we'll give a start time and an end time to where we want to search between. On top of that, we'll have a time zone, and we'll get to that in a second. But what you're wanting to do here is create a credential. To do that, we'll hit this red box, create new credential, and we're going to paste in our cal.com API key, which we had copied before. Paste in there, we'll hit save. Connection tested successfully. We can X out of that. And now we've connected our cal.com account for this API call. We'll need to populate now the event type ID. So getting rid of this value with the event type ID I told you to copy before. So again, here it's at the URL address here after the / before the question mark here, a sequence of numbers, and paste that in like so. Now the start time is passed from our tool call. When I mentioned in VAPI, our requested time, this is essentially going to be that. We don't need to change anything there, only we need to change the end time. So we're taking the start time and we're essentially adding 8 hours to it. So the start time is going to be the start of the day. The end time is going to be 8 hours from now, specifically in the year, month, day, time, hour, minute, second, plus 11. So this plus 11 is GMT for Australian Sydney, and you'll need to amend this for your GMT offset. So if you're EST in America, this is -05 semicolons 00. If you're Central Time, for example, this is -06. If you're Mountain Time, -07. Just check up your GMT offset for the specific time zone you're in. So for example, I'm gonna use EST today, and once we've changed the +11 to our GMT offset, we're good to go. X out of that, and again changing the time zone here. So we're using Eastern Time, so this is going to be America / New York as the time zone. So whatever time zone you're in, you want to change the GMT offset as well as the time zone label. Once that is good to go out of this, and we're going to replicate this across all these available time slots nodes. So what we did exactly above there, we'll do again for these following two available slot HTTP requests. Again, changing the time zone. So I'm gonna go EST today, -05, America, New York. Again, down to the third one, -0500, America, New York. And then the event type ID, I'll just copy that from the top one that we changed, and we'll use that for these. Paste. Now the final HTTP request is the booking slots endpoint. So this is a post method to the bookings endpoint of cal.com. Again, connecting your credential type, scrolling down, and what we want to change here is of course the event type ID, the start time plus GMT offset. So in this case, we're going to be negative, I might just extend this. We're going to be -05 for Eastern Time, for example. The email here, you want to change also to your specific email, and the phone number also to your specific phone number. This can be also the user's phone number, but this is up to your discretion. Nothing else here changes unless your integration is outside of Google Meets. So this may be a team meeting or a Zoom meeting. Finally, the time zone settings of this. So because I'm using Eastern Time in America, for example, we're needing to change that Australia Sydney to America New York, and you'll change this to whatever label that your GMT offset is associated with. As I suggested before, the description of this event, discovery / the reason for the call. So that parameter that we're collecting in our book appointment function call. As far as everything else goes, this is good. Don't need to change, just ensuring your event type ID is changed to your specific cal.com event. The requested time with your GMT offset, your email, your phone number, or the customer's phone number. You might want to change the name here as well, the title, and being sure to make sure you're in the right time zone here. As far as that goes, we're good. Nothing else needs to change here. And there we have it. We have our API requests for getting available time slots, as well as booking in a slot, all set up within this workflow. We'll want to connect our Airtable, Slack, and Twilio. Now, I'll explain what's happening here. If the tool call name is not equal to our check calendar N8N, e.g. book calendar N8N, we're going to collect the user's requested time, their name, their reason. And when we've booked in a slot with that requested time in their GMT offset, we'll respond to the webhook as success, saying, I've created your booking. You should receive an SMS confirmation with the meeting link shortly. And we're passing in the tool call ID that we receive from our webhook. This is the response format that VAPI expects tool calls to be in, and I might just quickly reference that now. Essentially what we're doing is we had created our own custom tool, which was check calendar N8N and book calendar N8N, and VAPI expects our server to respond in a certain way to that webhook. And that is under the results array, we need to pass in that tool call ID as well as the result that will be spoken back to the user if we require it to. We have the results array with our tool call ID given from that webhook and the result. So in the event of this result, we've created the booking. So we'll say this. In these 4 more respond to webhooks, these are for the times. So in our results array, we have the tool call ID, and if that first requested time is available, we'll say we've got available slots at these available slots. Do any of these work? And these available slots are ascertained from our format and filter. And we'll see all this populated when we run it. We have similar responses to each one. So the first rolling counter where that first day isn't available and the next day is, we'll say, that day is booked. We've got available slots at XYZ for the following day. Similarly, if 2 days in advance wasn't free, we'll say that doesn't work either. We've got available slots at XYZ 2 days from then. Do any of those work? Finally, if we roll 3 times, so the essentially the first time the user requested, so say for example, a user requested tomorrow and that was not free, we'll roll to the next day. And if that wasn't free, we'll roll to the next day. And finally, if those 3 were not available, we'll respond with, looks like we are fully booked. Did you want to call back in a few days? This way, we're sort of limiting how many times we can actually roll forward the days to get available time slots. If you're booked out for like 2 weeks and a user requests tomorrow, for example, we don't want to roll indefinitely to when that next available time slot is. So we sort of want to roll 3 times. And if it's all booked, then your calendar's obviously fully booked. We'll get the user to call back in a few days. I go on a tangent there, and the final things that we really need to set up for this workflow to work with you is Twilio, Airtable, and Slack. Now, Slack and Airtable is completely optional. This is up to you, but we will need Twilio to send the confirmation SMS. So we'll go into Twilio and we'll want to connect our Twilio credential. You do that by create new credential. And what this will ask you is for your Twilio account SID and authentication token. To get that, we need to go to console.twilio.com. Under console.twilio.com, you'll see your account SID, your authentication token, and the Twilio phone number. Now, to send these SMSs, it cannot be landlines, it has to be local or mobile numbers. If you're familiar or watching this video in the context of appointment booking, I'm assuming you've connected Twilio to VAPI agents before. We're not going to get into that today. All we need is this account information, and we're going to populate our authentication credentials within N8N with these details. Making note of the number that you've connected your agent with also. Now your Twilio has been connected. The operation here, we're sending an SMS from that number that is connected to our VAPI agent or your Twilio account. Copy that back into N8N, paste that in there. So this is the number we're sending from, and of course we're sending to tool call name, message, customer number. We don't have to change any of this. And the message, which is largely up to you, is, hey, name, your booking has been created for this requested time. You can join the meeting from this link, and this is the Google Meet URL. Thank you for your time on the phone. Look forward to meeting. Regards, little regards here that you can change. As far as Twilio goes, we're good to go. Next thing we want to do is Airtable. And to get your Airtable API key, which we'll need if we click into this module, select credential, create new credential, we'll need the access token. Now to get an Airtable access token, you'll want to go to airtable.com/create/tokens, create new token, and you can name this whatever you want, YouTube, and we'll need 3 scopes here. The first being read and write access, and the third being schema bases read, and the access here is going to be access to our base in which contains the tables. Now the way this is set up is we have one singular base, agent appointment booking, with 2 tables. So the first table is this raw data we're collecting from any of the calls, regardless of whether they're booked in or not, including all the costs for the LLM, speech to text, and so forth, how long it lasted, when the call was started, what type of call. We're populating phone number IDs, all the details that you need. And the reason we have this table is because it's then very easy to create, especially within Airtable, a dashboard for your customer to see all the raw call analytics. So that is why I've created a data table here, and specifically our columns start with the ID. So the ID of that call, the call provider ID, so your Twilio call provider ID, phone number ID, customer number, and this is all single line text. The type of the call, which will be inbound or outbound or web call, started, ended, milliseconds as a number, cost as a number. This is speech to text, and then the cost as a number, LLM, cost text to speech, cost VAPI, cost totals, cost Twilio. And you don't really have to include this Twilio and totals cost, as well as the currency or cost in AUD, but you'll want to add ended reason, transcript, and recording. If you have all the columns set up exactly like this, you won't have to change the mappings Airtable side within N8N. The second table is the bookings, and you'll want to set it up as name, number, reason as long text, meeting time, meeting link, status with booked, and an assignee. So we'll have the name of the caller, their number, the reason for that call, meeting time, and the meeting link. So we can easily see here, or your client can easily see here, what meetings were actually booked, what time they were for, and what is the associated link with them. So if you have these two tables set up, data, bookings, under the agent appointment booking base, will be good to map out our Airtable. And this is what I mean by adding our base to the access here. So you would add base, selecting that agent appointment booking, create your token, and we'll copy that here, heading back over to N8N and pasting our access token in there. Go ahead and hit save. Back in our booking record module here, the base as well as the table will need to change also. So firstly, what we're doing here is this is pertaining to our booking table. And to get the actual table and base ID is you can find it at the URL bar here. So app followed by a random sequence of characters is your base ID. And then the TBL followed by a random sequence of characters is going to be your table ID. So you have your base ID, table ID. And notice in between tables, the table ID changes. So each table has a unique ID under that same base URL. So you want to copy your base URL here, specifically the ID between the / and the next /. Coming back over to N8N, and this top line here under booking record, we'll input our base ID here. Coming back over to our Airtable base, and the bookings table ID at the URL bar here, copy and populating that there. You'll also come back over to the data table and copying that table ID, copy, N8N, we'll go out of this, and under here, the raw data record. Once you've created your token, paste in the table ID here, and you'll also want to use the base ID that you just pasted in for this raw data record here at the top here. Perfect. As far as the mapping goes and the values that we're populating these tables with, firstly, we're using the name. So I'm making reference here to the booking table. We're sending the user's name, their number, the title, so the reason for the call, the meeting time and the meeting link, and the status. There's really not much here you'll have to change. It's sort of up to your discretion on how you create your Airtable. And again, Airtable entirely is optional, up to you. But as far as the mappings go here, they should remain the same, provided that your tool call is exactly the same as I showed earlier in the video. Similarly, in the raw data record side of things, we're populating the tool call ID, the call provider ID, the phone number, the customer number, the type of call, started, ended, milliseconds, cost. Everything like this is mapped exactly the same in an end of call report webhook. So you won't have to change too much here unless you have completely or entirely different columns. We've also got the transcript and recording URL there. There we go, Airtable, Twilio, and our http cal.com request modules are done. Finally, if you want to add a Teams notification, so for example, I want to message a certain channel, e.g. my sales channel, new booking created for response name, so the user's name, their contact number, the booking time, and the booking link, tagging some team members in my Slack channel. You can do that also. All you have to do is add your credential, sending a message to either a channel or a user, selecting that channel, inputting your message text here, similar to what we've done as always with creating our new credentials. Create new credential. OAuth is probably the best here for Slack. Connect your account. This will prompt you with a screen. We'll go ahead and hit approve. Connection successful. And now your Slack's connected. I'm gonna leave the same here. I wanna send to a channel. Now, obviously your channel names are gonna be different, so ensuring that you're selecting from the list. Now, these are markdown format for tagging members of a channel. So these will be specific IDs for me and my team. So you want to change these also, but as far as the message body, you're pretty good to go. Once that is all done, you can go ahead and hit save up the top here. You are good to go. We're going to run through this now using an actual phone here so we can check the SMS side of things as well as the Slack stuff and the Airtable stuff, making sure everything is connected. Now, I did mention time zones, so before we jump into that, I need to make note of how you need to convert this template to your specific time zone, and that starts with the format and filter nodes here. And essentially what we're doing here is we're formatting these nodes into a certain date time format, and you'll see here the time zone is still set to Australia, Sydney. So we need to be changing this time zone preference to your own localized time zone, similar to what we did here with the available slot start time at America, New York. For example, if you're EST time, so this will be based on your time zone, we'll want to be changing that and amending that as required here. So America, New York. What this module does is we're essentially taking the input of the start time. We're formatting these to check if the start time array is empty. If it is, we're returning busy. If not, we'll return the start time of those slots. As well as the attempt counter, and some formatting and filtering stuff here. Nothing to worry about too much, but the essential thing here is ensuring this time zone is specific to your time zone. So we're just going to change that for all three format and filters down here from Australia, Sydney to whatever time zone you're in. Another thing here to change, I know this is a lot, but this is a beast of an appointment scheduling system, and every time zone is different. This is the easiest way, having sort of a modular system to cut and paste your own time zones. The start time and attempt, you'll also want to change the +11 here. For example, if you're EST, -0500, you'll only need to change the top one here because we're using this start time as it runs through that first. If it goes to these subsequent ones, which we can just use. So as long as you're changing this one, and specifically at the end of the expression where it says +11, change to your GMT offset, please. Once that is set up, you'll want to change again the increment of the plus day and attempt. So where we're adding an extra day to roll the attempt counter, you're going to want to change also the +11 here. So for example, in this video, I'm using EST, which is -0500, and rolling that for all of them. So guys, like a bit to change here, but it's the easiest way. I know everyone's from different time zones, so identifying where you need to change will help you a lot. So -05:00 for EST, and changing that for all of them down here. And finally, when that's done, you can hit save. We've now identified all the time zone changes we need to do based on your time. I'll note these two filters at the start. So if the server event or the event from VAPI is equal to tool calls, we are going to check if that tool call name is equal to check calendar N8N. If it's true, then we'll screen for availability. If it's false, then we'll book in the appointment. So depending on what exactly you name your tools, you likely will have to change this to suit the name of your tool. If you're gonna name it the exact same as mine, which I recommend you do so you don't have any issues, this will be fine also. Now, also included here are some notes on the requirements, how each sort of section works, and the responses of each section, creating a booking, and what's happening here at the bottom. Everything's sort of mapped out and explained neatly on this workflow. I've tried to do the best I can to make this very, very easy for yourself to set up alongside this video. And again, everything is free below in the description, including this N8N template, the VAPI template, along with both tool creation method templates inside a bit of a tutorial document on how to do it all. We'll go ahead and hit save. What we'll have to do here is check our test URL or production URL, depending on whether this is live or not. You'll want to copy your own webhook URL. At the start, this may be respond immediately. You'll also change this to using respond to webhook node. We're going to copy the test URL. This will remain static across both tool calls and your end of call report. And you'll want to copy this into your VAPI assistant. So over in VAPI, you can first create the assistant under advanced, scrolling down to messaging, the server URL. Once you've copied it from here, you can basically just click, paste, publish, and similar for both your tool calls, you'll want to use that URL as well. So I'll change it here. So integration, the server URL, copy, paste, scroll down, hit save, save. And for your second tool, check calendar, making sure the integration server URL is the same for your webhook within N8N. I'll quickly change also one thing in the assistant, ensuring this now time, current time now, is America, New York. And now this is mapped to this test URL. What we can do now is test this workflow, call in our agent, and we'll see how it sounds. Now this will be in EST time, and my Google Calendar is for Australian Eastern Standard Time, so it'll be a bit weird. It'll be like in the AMs, but it'll work regardless. So let's test that now. We've switched here to my laptop camera because I don't have two phones on me at the moment. It is quite a few hours later, but that is fine. We'll go ahead and call into the agent, and we're going to ask for an event on the 6th, and I'll show you the SMS live as it's sent to me, and then we'll switch back over to the main camera. Calling in now.
Hello, this is Sam from Talk AI.
Hey Sam, I'd like to book an appointment.
Sure, may I have your name?
Jonas.
Thank you, Jonas. Are you interested in AI voice agents?
Yes, absolutely.
Great. What time do you prefer to book an appointment?
Do you have anything on the 6th of March?
Give me a moment. We have available slots on March 6th at 11:30 a.m., 2:15 p.m., and 2:45 p.m. Do any of those times work for you?
Let's do the 11:30.
Just a sec. Thank you for booking with us, Jonas. You should receive an SMS with the details and meeting link shortly. Is there anything else I can assist you with today?
No, that should be all today. Thank you.
Thank you for your time today. Goodbye.
Trying to get this centered in. Boom. So 11:30 on the 6th. I can join that meeting link directly from here. And now I'll switch back over to the main camera so it's a bit easier on your eyes. So the execution, as you saw, ran fine. We did get that SMS link. We'll check the Google Calendar, and I did format this for EST time, and there we have it. We have the 11:30 that we said over the phone for the 6th, where we can go ahead and join that. The title was populated. We got the right time zone. So that is all good. We'll check the Airtable. So the Airtable looks good. Name, number, reason. The meeting time is correct. That's perfect. The meeting link and the status. The data is also been populated. So started at, ended at, inbound call, all the essential IDs, milliseconds, costs, and perfect. We got the transcript here. March the 6th. Yep, perfect. And that recording there. That's perfect. Also, we'll go ahead into Slack real quick, And it's populated with our Slack here, our name, number, booking time, the meeting link, which I can join, and that's fine. So there we have it, the creme de la creme, if I said that right, or the mother of all schedulers, I like to call it, or the big boss of appointment scheduling. I'll roll on to the outro now, but thanks for watching, guys. So that is it, the mother of all appointment bookers. And this is just version 1, so I'm sure there'll be updates to this workflow in the coming weeks or months. But as far as operationally wise, this works excellent in production environments. So definitely do give this a try and test it out on your own agents. Now guys, this took almost a month to prepare, so I really hope you found this video useful. As always, the materials for everything we discussed in this video is in the link below. All I ask is that if you're not subscribed, do hit that subscribe button for more videos like this. If you did get some value from this, make sure to share this video, leave a comment and like this video. But that is it for today, guys. A big one. I hope you all enjoyed. Until next week.